All right, hello and welcome to another Expert Inside interview. My name is John Golden from Sales Pop, online sales magazine, and Pipeliner CRM, joining you as usual from a sunny San Diego. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Connor Widder, who is up in Minneapolis in Minnesota. How you doing, Connor?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, John?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Great to have you on. And Connor is the founder of Cru Marketing, a dynamic search marketing agency that specializes in SEO, paid search strategies for home service businesses. You have a deep commitment to helping home service providers like pool builders, HVAC specialists, electricians, roofers, and other contractors generate consistent, high quality leads. And that's what we're going to talk about today is how home service businesses can leverage SEO and Google Ads to generate more leads. Hey, Connor, it's a problem, not just in home services, I think, but it's a problem across the board that nobody ever complains about having too many leads, and it's leads are hard to come by. And now it's even harder with people who are so kind of there's so much noise, they're bombarded from everywhere. It's hard to figure. It's hard to stand out, and it's hard to figure out how to stand out.
Yeah, I mean, there's a million channels now. I mean, there's a plethora of social media channels that are relevant, and obviously now AI has changed everything, and all the same models that worked 20 years ago in form of cold calling, email, personal, face to face, also relevant. So it's pretty overwhelming if you think about it.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. So, what are some of the particular challenges that home service businesses face when they're trying to generate leads and business and know where to advertise?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is knowing where to start. There's a lot of different agencies and people who are pushing their agenda of what, hey, this is the best thing. You have to do this. You got to post on social media. You got to, do run ads or SEO, all these things. So it's just overwhelming. I think the biggest like tip is like, hey, just pick one. They
Mhm.
all they all can work, but just pick one. But for me, kind of when I think about it, I put myself in my client's shoes. I'm thinking, okay, if or myself, like if I have a issue with my house or I'm a business owner and I need to get my business's roof replaced or whatever, my building's roof replaced, I'm gonna go to Google. I'm gonna say, hey, I have this issue. How do I solve that issue? And so for home service companies, people are already looking for you. People are
Mhm.
already looking for your service. Compare that to social media. I'm on Facebook to watch Mr. Beast or
Right.
whatever, check up with my friends. I'm not there to get a new HVAC or AC.
Mhm.
So it's just addressing them where they're already looking for you.
Yeah, and I think that's always an important point to make because, as you said, it's very tempting at the beginning just to try and be everywhere and sort of go, well, my customers could be anywhere. But the reality is, you got to figure out where they really are and where that demographic is. So obviously, the more work you do on that, and that again, I mean, that's going to inform your strategy around what SEO terms and that to go after and where do you want to. I mean, the other thing too is, I guess, Connor, a lot of it is if you're a home services business, are you just focused on a particular location? Do you go further? If so, like your strategies are obviously different depending on how much of a footprint you have.
Yeah, if you're located in a large metro, you might not be able to. For example, San Diego.
Hmm.
San Diego is large, and then you have just kind of LA County right above that, Orange County. So you can't go after all of that. It might make sense depending on what you provide to focus on one of those kind of metros within San Diego
Hmm.
versus maybe you can attack it all. So it helps to narrow down.
Yeah, yeah, and that way, then obviously, you can focus your spend a bit better.
Mhm.
What are some of the mistakes you see when people dive into SEO and and Google ad spend? Well, one of the biggest mistakes is spending a lot of money very quickly, I guess. But
Yeah.
what do you see as some of the
Yeah.
most common mistakes?
Yeah, so really a mistake for each of those different channels, SEO
Mhm.
versus paid ads. Paid ads, number one, not tracking conversions. So, I mean, technically that's true for SEO too. If you're not tracking your leads, If you're
Mhm.
not tracking calls, tracking submission, lead forms, you have no idea, what if what you're doing is working. And that's
Mhm.
even more important for paid ads because you're spending money. You're not you're spending money, so you're flying blind. You have no idea what's happening. SEO, the conversions is number one on that list too of mistakes, but the other one would be kind of getting bogged down in all the nuances of SEO. There's a
Right.
lot that goes into it, to be fair, and a lot of the details are crucial. But at the end of the day, it's actually not that complicated when it comes to practically what you do on a month-to-month basis, ongoing. So it's just wasting time on useless activity, which is what so many agencies end up doing. Is they're billing you hours for nonsensical work that doesn't
Mhm.
drive results and get you more leads.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point on SEO because people can get, can disappear down rat holes very quickly on that if they're not careful. And as you said, I mean, it should be relatively straightforward for your business. In on the case of your when you're doing ad spend or anything like that, the as you said, having the process in place, like how is this going to be tracked? Or do you have a dedicated URL or a UTM code or whatever? How is that going to get tracked into the business so you can attribute revenue to that lead source? Because that's obviously critical about where you put your money going forward.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned UTM's. That's a little more on the technical side of things. A lot of
Mm,
times that's usually should be handled natively by the platforms. But you can definitely get more complex, and you got to have
mm,
that set up properly and passing across different pages.
mm,
But we use a tool called What Converts. There's a lot of great tools out there that do lead tracking. What Converts, Call Rail, and there's I'm sure more.
mhm.
Pipeliner might even have something that can do that too. But
Yeah.
being able to track every call that you get, every lead form submission that you get, and where they're coming from. A software can take care of all of that for you.
Mhm. Yeah, and as you mentioned earlier, but you touched on AI. How much is AI starting to impact? Because now you have the added challenge of it's not just showing up in search results, but people are starting to use AI tools as search engines. So you want to be showing up in AI search results too, which is a little more complicated.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a big question. So the way you would show up in AI is really the same way you would show up in Google.
Hmm.
You have content, and that's how AI is training itself, is off of your content. So if you want to show up in AI, then you can't if you don't have the content. So it's really kind of the same strategy at the end of the day. Now, the way you would actually implement it might be a little bit different from for AI versus Google, in
Hmm.
terms of like how they would how they would select your website versus another. Um, and then it's of course changed SEO. Of course, like traffic is going to Gemini, it's
Yeah.
going to ChatGPT. So it's no depending on the business and the vertical that you're in, SEO is might not be as viable. It's
Hmm.
not dead, but it's changed to the point where you might need to reconsider some things. If you're a home service business, you absolutely should still be doing SEO. It's because you're tied to a local region for the most part. And
Hmm.
so the local searches are not going away. AI can't really replace that to the same degree it can for like an e-commerce
Sure.
company or a SaaS company where it's heavily informational based. So the Google Maps profile matters now more than ever, and AI is not replacing that. And then additionally, Google Ads is Google's marquee moneymaker. Outside
Hmm.
of like servers,
Yeah.
Google makes a lot of money from ads, so
Hmm.
they're not gonna supersede Gemini over Google Ads. So
No, for
that
sure.
makes ads even more crucial now than ever.
Yeah, no, no, absolutely, and I think that is part of in the future will be around the content. You have to make a decision. Do I want to be somebody who generates content, or do I am I okay because I'm focused on this area or whatever. But yeah, I agree with you. We track ourselves now, because in Google Analytics now they finally uh, did it where you can track AI traffic directly, stuff that's coming in, so you can look at that as a line item, as a tracking metric, which is
Mhm.
nice. But I agree with you; it's really critical to know who your audience is, and where they're coming from. And today, how much do all the fundamentals still matter, like the good website, good content, good all of the kind of fundamental things that we always would say a business needed to have from a
Yeah.
digital point of view?
Yeah, to be honest, they matter more now than ever because it's easier now than ever to have the fundamentals be done right. So if you're
Hmm.
not doing the fundamentals, you're so far behind. So good structured, well structured content, good looking website. Really, no excuse that you shouldn't have those things now. AI could do that for you in 20 minutes. So you got to have that.
Hmm. I tell you one tip though is where I see a lot of businesses still falling down is not having a mobile friendly, not having it optimized for mobile. When if you look at the statistics, I would suggest anybody who their business go look at your website statistics. You mightn't have looked in a while, but look at the proportion of people who are coming using to your website using smartphones as opposed to
Hmm.
tablets or computers. So I would say make sure your website is responsive. Are there any? Are you just talking on Google Ads, because Google Ads is obviously can get very expensive and it can be very competitive out there. What are some strategies for being able to maximize your Google ad spend?
Yeah. As I said before, tracking spend, if you don't start not tracking conversions,
Hmm.
because a lot of times people will say, "Hey, I'm investing in all this stuff and like I don't see the return." But then if you actually look at the data, you'll see,
Yeah.
"Oh, hey, well, my lifetime value is X thousands of dollars, and yeah, it costs $500 to acquire this client, this customer." But when we look at the value, it's there. So having the data, because you can't even make these hard critical
Mhm.
decisions without that data.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I mean, ads is not the best fit for every business. You have to, depending on the industry you're in, the location, you might need to spend anywhere from $2,500 per month to 10 grand, 20 grand plus
Hmm.
per month in ads. And there's businesses that spend far more than that. So um, it is a barrier to entry. So if you're a smaller local business, maybe you're not quite ready to spend $5,000 a month in ads or whatever. Local ads are definitely an option. Google local service ads can be very affordable.
Yeah, excellent. And also, if you look at, needed to make sure, obviously, you spend your money wisely. You understand you're tracking everything. You understand where your business is coming from, making sure that you're able to execute on those leads immediately. That's another area I see often, like in some local businesses. I see it fall down, and you wonder,
Yeah.
like, leads are so hard to come by, but then you don't get a timely call back or a reply or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I totally forgot that. Honestly, a lot of times it's not a marketing problem, it's a sales problem.
Hmm.
You're just not doing you just don't have a good sales process. And so, once again, if you don't have a CRM, that's another thing that I haven't really mentioned. If you don't, you got to have the conversion tracking, all that. But if you don't have the CRM where those leads are then going into and being managed by a salesperson, moving them through the pipeline,
Hmm.
it doesn't matter how much you spend on ads, you won't make money if you're not selling them properly.
Yeah, no, no, 100%. And I think nowadays, because there's so many different touch points, you could have somebody who came to who filled out a form. Maybe they already talked to somebody. Maybe they exchange. There's so many different touch points that unless you can see all of that in immediately and get a coherent snapshot of this is Connor's journey so far, then you can pick it up elegantly. Yeah, if you don't have those systems set up. As you said, it doesn't matter how much money you spend on leads. Dead leads are dead leads.
Hmm.
Yeah.
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 100%.
So what do you see? What do you see coming in the future? If you take out your crystal ball and look, where do you see both SEO and Google advertising going?
Yeah. I think in the home service industry, I think I see SEO becoming something that if you don't build your moat now, it's
Mhm.
gonna be really hard for you to get a
Right.
reasonable market share in your area. So it's kind of like last call. Not to be like a doomsday SEO guy, but it's kind of a last call. Like this is really one of the last chances you have to build that moat around your business, which is kind of your organic presence, your organic authority. And so if you don't do that, the cost to get there in 3 years or
Mhm.
5 years, who knows how long it will be or how short, will be significantly higher than it might be worth it. Um, and then unfortunately, ad costs too is they're going up. It's getting more expensive. So if you don't figure out how to run ads profitably and effectively now, it's
Mhm.
only going to get harder. So it's just really the caution is waiting around for it to get easier because it's not going to be easier.
Yeah, no, I think those are the excellent piece of advice. I guess it's that old one, isn't it? The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is today. So, I guess as you're saying, if you haven't nailed your terms down, if you haven't decided and you haven't maximized and figured out the optimum spend on Google Ads, yeah, and like I said, they go up and they can just destroy somebody's liquidity very quickly if they're not careful.
hmm And then just staying up with AI. Like it's easier now than ever to write content. There's obviously you got to do it the right way. AI is not just like doesn't just
Mhm.
do it perfectly for you. You still have to know
Yeah.
what you're doing, which is why you want to hire an expert to help you do that. But um, stay up with AI. Keep going. It's progressed in an insane amount over the last year. So it will only continue to do so.
Yeah, no, no, absolutely, it is. It's progressing so rapidly right now, and the amount of things that it can do is incredible. And so, just I know this is a business you focus on, and the home good services business you think is a pretty robust market to be in.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, people are always going to need
Mm.
their roof replaced. They're gonna need an AC. They're gonna need a heater. They're gonna need their concrete pressure washed.
Mhm.
Um, those needs are always going to be here. And the ways that we help our clients find leads will for sure change and
Mhm.
evolve. But it's not a space that's changing and going away anytime soon. So yeah, we're pretty rooted and happy to be here.
And then obviously then the local and the the validation that people can get from reviews from other people who've used the service, but especially for smaller business because they seem kind of a little more relatable maybe than for bigger ones.
Yeah, I think as a small business, you might think that you don't have the budget, you don't have the ability to spend what these big guys are
Mhm.
doing. But the thing is, some people don't want to work with those big businesses.
Yeah.
So you need to, you know, run and manage the business that you have, and you'll find your target customers. And so even if you can't spend like them, you can do things different and better
Yeah.
than those larger companies can. So lean into that.
Yeah, no, 100%. A great piece of advice to finish on there. Absolutely. You have all the advantages of being able to build those close relationships and just going that extra mile. Things that people kind of crave nowadays that maybe they're getting a little bit tired of the, the big box cookie cutter service that they get from large
Mhm.
corporations. Well, listen, thanks, Connor. This has been fascinating. All of Connor's information will be below this video. But before we go, please do remind people about what you do.
Yeah, so at Cru Marketing, we help home service companies, home service businesses get more leads through search marketing, so Google Ads, SEO. So at the end of the day, you can grow your business and sell more jobs.
Excellent. Well, listen, thanks again, Connor. Thank you for watching and listening. See you all again very soon. Thank you.